Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Western Division Final on the Under Review YouTube channel. Casey Bryant here, bringing you exclusive live coverage of this Clash of the Titans here in the Western Division, the top two seeds squaring off, the Port Huron Prowlers and the Carolina Thunderbirds. This is the kind of high-octane, high-flying matchup that we would have loved to have seen in the playoffs in the Western Division Final, although this was a season series that was mostly dominated by the Carolina Thunderbirds. They only met twice in the realm of the living, and in those two games, the Thunderbirds hosted the Prowlers and outscored them 11-4 in a two-game weekend sweep at the conclusion of February. But this is the kind of matchup where Port Huron really has the capability of exploding at any moment, at any time. At the time of the suspension of the FPHL season, these two teams were getting set for a three-game set out in Michigan. So we'll see how this simulation takes place and gets the stage set for what would have been a monumental matchup in the Western Division. And plus, it's just a great opportunity for myself, considering that as my home is the Danbury Arena broadcast booth, and it's a terrific opportunity to really see two of the best teams out in the Western Division, although you wouldn't know they were the two best teams judging by their record against the hat-tricks, but you know, it's not a big deal or anything. I'm not trying to flex on anyone. I'm just appreciative for the chance to call some more hockey, and if I'm the under review, I understand the need for an upgrade, bringing in the big guns for the Western Division. It's no big deal. It's why they pay me the big bucks. And you may be asking, are you actually making any bucks during this quarantine? And to that, I say, oh, look at that game starting. We're getting set for Game 1 of the Western Division Final between the Port Huron Prowlers and Carolina Thunderbirds. Don't go anywhere. Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The Winston-Salem Fairgrounds Annex is where we find ourselves for Game 1 of the Western Division Final. After a pair of series sweeps, these two squads are going to be squaring off against one another. Chris Paulin going in goal for the Port Huron Prowlers. Across the way for him in goal for the Carolina Thunderbirds will be Christian Pavlos. And Pavlos making an appearance here in goal for the Carolina Thunderbirds after a stint in Slovakia for the duration of the FPHL season. Michael Bunn and Dalton Jay will make their way into the face-off dot, and away we go. The Prowlers skating from left to right on your YouTube screen, donning their road whites with checkerboard trim on their sleeves. The Thunderbirds, meanwhile, wearing their traditional home reds with white and black striping. Puck will go all the way down towards Paulin. He'll leave it be as it goes into the corner. Chipped over to the far side midboards. It'll be cut off by Bunn. Bunn leaves it at the circle. It'll be picked up by Austin Federle. Leaves it for Graham. Turnover now at the blue line. Here's Bunn turning around, looking towards the net. Skating in deep. That backhander off the stick of Krivolovic is blocked in front. Now it's to Fate. Crossing over to Vlasov. Back to Fate. His long slapper. They score! Redirected in front. It's Jan Salak. 1-0 Thunderbirds. And Paulin, it looked like, got a piece of this one. Salak was planting himself down low in front of the net. He is a big body, taking away the eyes of the goaltender. Vlasov and Fate were playing pitch and catch at the blue line, and yes, indeed, it looked like Paulin did get a piece of it with his blocker after it was redirected by Salak, but not enough to keep it out of the net. And that is a 1-0 early Thunderbirds lead. And for a team that was as dominant in the regular season as the Carolina Thunderbirds, if you were the Port Huron Prowlers, you wanted to take their legs out from underneath them early. You know, in any game against the Thunderbirds, you don't ever want them to feel overconfident for the majority of the game, because this is a team that, well, had their way with most everyone in the league, as there's a shot by Panachik that's stopped by Paulin. Most everyone, I should say, except for Danbury, but that's aside the point. Turning around at the zone is Joe Pace, crossing over to Parsons, intercepted by Panachik. Now skating in is Martin. Glides to his right. Martin to the one-timer in the slot. That one stopped by Paulin. Vartianian will pick it up, gets it over to Parsons. Now back over to Nipper. The Prowlers having some early difficulties getting it out of their own end, and that is something that we even saw in the realm of the living, and that the Carolina Thunderbirds are so good at pinning teams in their defensive zone and playing the possession game that Andre Nitsch loves to play, that very European style of puck possession, as there's Martin. Shot gets towed off by Paulin. Picked up once more. Out to Panachik. swarmed by 3 different Port Huron Prowlers. An unconventional defensive style for Port Huron, sending 3 men charging headlong at the puck carrier, but whatever gets the job done. Skating in is Portillo, toe drag, and shanks it well wide. Here's Moroso, staple gunned along the midboards. Now Cangelosi picks it up and skates across red line, blue line, enters into the attacking zone. As a man in front of the net, now there's a chance out in front that's broken up, and Arnott will steer it aside. Arnott over to Zolkanic. Back down low to Arnott in the corner. Zolkanic is thrown off the puck. A terrific hit there. That was a pass out to Cangelosi now at the far side circle. One-timer shot save. Redirected. They score. Pargach is able to bat it out of the air. A little bit of baseball action for Yuri Pargach. And this is a one-timer from the slot, and Pargach coming dangerously close to having that stick be up high. He has it at the letters, really. That was a high and outside pitch. It's a great job of pulling that one. Looking like Barry Bonds getting full extension with those left hands and able to bat it into the back of the net. Of course, Barry would have yeeted it out of the stadium. That's aside the point. Nevertheless, good fundies. And a quick 2-0 lead as there's Pavlos finally getting some action as he gloves one in front. So just past the 8-minute mark gone by here in the first period, and the Thunderbirds have already taken a commanding 2-0 lead. Grebenikov will be in the face-off dot against Fowler. Port Huron will have to find an answer in a hurry. You don't want Carolina running away with things, and when the series are as short as these are in the FPHL, there's really no time for big momentum swings. You have to be able to make your presence felt really from the jump. And there's Holt with a long shot sending it wide. And right now there's just no life in the skates of the Port Huron Prowlers. Carolina just having their way with them as there's another shot, high danger chance that goes wide. Poland was down. Now we jump through time and space, down low to Contrado, and he gets a shot off. That's blocked aside by Pavlos. Carried up the right wing by Carolina. Pargach. Out to the high slot. Long shot. Goes wide. Delayed penalty coming up against Port Huron, and it will be a power play for the Carolina Thunderbirds. We'll take another look at what the infraction may be. Pargach entering in, and Young gets his elbow up behind and going down like he was shot was Pargach. Got mugged in the corner. Fortunately, didn't have his wallet or purse on him, so at least he leaves with his bearings. Nevertheless, it will be a 2-minute power play for Carolina and a chance to go up even further. Vlasov to Petita, out to Fate now. Intercepted by Dalton J, now picked up by Krivolovic. Krivolovic out to Fate at the far side point. Loops it around roulette style over to the other point to Vlasov. Took the longest possible route to get to the area next to Vlasov. It'll be picked up now by Graham. Flips it over to Dalton J. Taken away by Osaka. Osaka carries it ahead for Carolina to Krivolovic. Wrist shot, glove, saved by Paulin, and he holds with 41 seconds to go in the power play and 7:54 to go in the first period. Well, it's become a shooting gallery at Chris Paulin. The deformed monster at the center of his sweater becoming something of a target. Taken by the Prowlers, and they're able to flick it out towards Klinitsky in the neutral zone. He'll hold it down, but Bakor gets knocked down to the ice. Petita carries in. Petita, who was acquired at the deadline from the Mentor Icebreakers. Spent some time in the SPHL as well. And Bakor up to Krivolovic. Krivolovic centering pass. Bunn is completely knocked down. Took a high hit. It looked like he ran into a clothesline there. We're back to 5-on-5. Joe Pace. Out to Young to Dalton J. J carries up on the right wing. He's got 2 Thunderbirds around him. J centering pass Federley. That shot blocker saved by Pavlos. Now Krivolovic once more on the right wing, and Carolina rushing ahead. Krivolovic spins in front of a defender, holds onto it, tries to get it out to Klinitsky. Broken play down low. Panachik scores! Peter Panachik. And the Thunderbirds continue their first period domination. It's 3-0. This is a sort of broken play as the puck goes off of a Prowler skate and another, I'm not sure if this was a pass or a shot attempt that just fortuitously finds its way down towards the stick of Panachik, and he's able to bury that one past Paulin. And you gotta wonder if Paulin is long for this contest. He might be yanking him from between the pipes before all is said and done after 20 minutes. Pastuca gets it up the left wing and carrying it ahead of the Thunderbirds. Rebenikov to Holt. Holt out to the point. Kenny over to Pastuca. Long slapper. That one is held by Paulin. A rough introduction to Winston-Salem for Paulin, who has been under siege. Well, you see on your screen, though, at least Port Huron is winning the face-off battle, but face-offs do not always equate to possession, as Carolina is putting on a clinic here when it comes to playing keep away with the puck and getting to the high-danger scoring areas. Holt has his back to the net, now skates up the wing. Flips it over, pinching in is Holt. Chips it in down low to Holt. Excuse me, it's Fate now. Over to Vlasov. McIntyre between the hash marks, back to the net. Vlasov once more. Rattling around behind the end lines. Arnott now takes it for Port Huron and gets it up to Zelkanich on the right wing. Zelkanich to Portillo. Portillo, bad angle try, saved by Pavlos. Rebound. Fate with a good job to throw a check to prevent a rebound shot. Past the 2-minute warning here in the first period. Osaka. Back pass for Vlasov. Entering in. Fate to Vlasov. That shot gets turned aside. Looping around in the final minute here in the first frame. Centering pass is intercepted by Arnott here as he was able to lift the stick of a Carolina Thunderbird. Robertson carries ahead, trying to strike late for the Port Huron Prowlers so they feel they leave this frame with something. Behind the end line, centering pass out to Nipper. Back pass now, Contrado. Contrado down low for Robertson. Robertson will be glued against the boards, and that will do it for the first period. Well, the equivalent of tripping over the starting line at the sound of the gun, the Port Huron Prowlers trail 3-0 at the end of the first period. An utter domination for Carolina. They carry a 3-0 lead into the second period. You're watching the Under Review YouTube channel. Be sure to tune in for all future games at the Under Review's channel and log on to underreview.org. Stay tuned for the start of the second period. Well, it said in the intermission that the shots on goal were 9-7 in favor of the Carolina Thunderbirds. I gotta be honest, not that I would ever doubt a infallible AI system, but it certainly didn't seem that way, because Carolina really had their way with the Port Huron Prowlers. Dalton J will carry it ahead, looking to answer back for the Prowlers. Here's Federley on the left wing. Federley squares to the net, blocked by the long legs of Fate. Now out to Graham. Long slapper by Young is gloved out of the air by Pavlos, and he holds. We'll go to early test there for Port Huron, getting at least a couple of shot attempts off. You would like to see a little bit of more of a jump at the beginning of the period. Face off one, Contrado to Young, back to Contrado. Contrado gets it down low, Moroso. Moroso now back to Contrado for a long slapper that's blocked. Good job by Carolina getting in front of those shooting lanes as here's Bunn to Vlasov, taking a few skates in. Krivolovic at the near side circle has the puck roll off the stick. Contrado was there harassing him. And we get a delayed penalty coming up, a penalty assessed against the Carolina Thunderbirds, a cross-check as Michael Bunn will plead his case. We're taking a look, and yeah, Michael Bunn lowered the shoulder and hit the truck stick, looking like he was trying to break a tackle. Despite his best Marshawn Lynch impression, he will be sitting in the penalty box, and an opportunity for Port Huron to answer back. Lifted back down the length of the ice, and Paulin will stymie the puck and wait for Joe Pace. Up the right wing, carrying it ahead are the Prowlers. To Robertson, his wrist shot, saved by Pavlos. Rebound is bouncing around in front of him, and he will hold on to it after a moment of hesitation. Pavlos getting some playoff time here for the Carolina Thunderbirds after not playing in a single regular season game. In fact, he spent the entirety of the FPHL season out in Slovakia. And he was able to re-sign with the Carolina Thunderbirds after his season in Slovakia was called to an unceremonious close, as has the FPHL at this point. I do find it a bit curious that Pavlos is playing here in the postseason, because to have postseason eligibility, you would have to play for 10 games. Now let's just say that, all things considered, the FPHL continue, right? Out to the point to Parsons, and Joe Pace gets it down low, and Graham fumbles with it. Let's keep all things equal. If his season ended on the 12th, and there was a game on the 13th, 14th, 15th for the Carolina Thunderbirds, so that centering pass is turned aside, you would have to play every single game from there on out, for one thing, for Pavlos, but on the other, let's say he was signed on the 14th. There's no way that he would be able to get to America from Slovakia by the 15th, which would mean he would only have 9 games left, which would mean he would no longer be eligible. I'm not trying to say there's foul play here afoot. I'm just happy to say that there's a little bit of odd bookkeeping going on for under review. I don't want to name names. I don't want to call anyone out. I'm just saying they should check their accounting in terms of accounting eligibility. Rivalovic centering pass, they score! Well, right now it doesn't matter who's in goal for the Carolina Thunderbirds, because their offense is producing at an electric rate. It's Jan Salak again. Well, this is the bread and butter play in NHL simulations. The wall to the hash marks. If you can get that one-timer for a right-handed shot coming from the right wing, it is a near automatic, especially when you have someone with as good a direction finder as Jan Salak. He takes the assist from Krivolovic, and Carolina now leads 4-0, and, well, we will need a drastic change in momentum, or anything, really, for Joe Pace and company here in Port Huron. If there is going to be any kind of response here, they need to start changing up their tactics, and how. Going ahead on the right wing. Forced against the wall. Picked up by Robertson to Sokol, now up to Portillo. Portillo, no reinforcements really with him, crosses over to Sokol, but he's surrounded by Thunderbirds, takes a long shot that is easily seen and held by Pavlos. Just about 8 minutes gone by here in the second period. Face-off will be to the left of Pavlos. It'll be Fowler in the dot for Port Huron and Panachik for Carolina. Juliana skates over towards the boards, bouncing puck. Rolls past Winston, I believe that is, over in the corner. Lost the puck. Fowler leaves it for Vartiainen. You know, that is something that there are mascots abound, really. Oh boy, as Pavlos kicks that out to the blue paint. There are mascots abound in the FPHL. There's Winston and Salem. There's Scorch and Torch, I think, are Columbus's mascots. There's whatever that was in Battle Creek, as there's a one-timer, they score. Mascot discussion on hold as Batista rifles home the one-timer. Paulin upset. And this is getting ugly. Start the Calliope music and pitch a tent. It's a circus right now for the Port Huron defense. Send in the clowns. Port Huron's defense simply can't do anything right. A comedy of errors as Batista is left completely unmarked. He's able to wire home a one-timer, and that is a 5-0 Carolina lead. There's not even really much to say. How would you really even evaluate this performance for Port Huron? The only notes is just do better. There's nothing really to it. There's nothing scientific. It's just they're taking bad shots. They're losing puck battles. There's just no heart in this elaborate series of ones and zeros. It's almost like they're automatons. As Joe Pace is completely leveled by fate. Contrada with a long shot. That's a kick save by Pavlos, and a rebound. They score. Finally an answer for Port Huron. It is 5-1. And an apoplectic Winston stares on as Nippard is able to bury one past Pavlos. It was redirected in front. Nippard, I believe, got the stick on it, and it was a pad saved by Pavlos. Was a little out of position, left just a wee bit of daylight over by the post. And Nippard is able to bury it. Well, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single solitary step. And might this be the gargantuan first step for the Port Huron Prowlers in what is a seemingly insurmountable deficit against a dominant team like Carolina? Stranger things have happened. Krivolovic now takes a step in. That's a rebound chance that's taken now by Michael Bunn. Bunn to Salak. Bakor to Salak. They score! Touchdown Carolina. It's 6-1. Just when you thought that things might be turning the corner for Port Huron. Well, they turned a corner all right, and, well, they got hit by a semi-truck. And that semi-truck is Jan Salak, who makes it rain hats. And it is uglier than Quasimodo down there on the ice. It is uglier than the Battle Creek mascot. Getting back to that initial discussion, because I feel that that was a neglected point. What was that? I feel like of all the things that really were in the control of the Battle Creek Rumblebees, and to be fair, they were not dealt a terrific hand, but you still have to take into account that their mascot was pretty creepy looking. As the puck is just sitting there out in the circle, it didn't look like Carolina even wanted to come take it. See, now they're just playing keep away. Now they're just content they're up by a big margin. They don't even want to run up the score. McIntyre leveled Parsons and then just kind of stood there. Almost as if he was asking him, are you not entertained? Paulin has 9 saves in the game. He's almost allowed as many goals as he made saves. That's, for those of you doing math at home, that is NG, no good. Kenny to Pastuca. Back over to Kenny. One-timer, they score! The extra point is up, and it's good. Batita, 7-1. Well, it's becoming a laugher here in Winston-Salem in Game 1 here in the Western Division Final. And for Carolina, they can laugh all the way to the bank. Or laugh all the way at least to the bus ride to Port Huron for Game 2. The virtual bus ride, I should say. And it's about time. Paulin will be removed. Scott will come in for Port Huron. Well, a dreadful night comes to a perplexing and frustrating close for Chris Paulin. Blake Scott will now patrol the pipes. Blake Scott, in the realm of the living, was a perfect 12-0. Was 9-0 with the Port Huron Prowlers, a .287 goals against average and .929 save percentage. He was acquired, of course, from the Watertown Wolves, where he won his first 3 games of the season. Well, at this point, he can't possibly do any worse than what Chris Paulin just did for the Port Huron Prowlers. At this point, now his job is just keep them off of double digits. Fowler carries up the right wing. Well, if things get really ugly in Port Huron, and let's say Scott starts allowing a few more, I will challenge the under review crew. I dare you to make Jeremy Skiba as a goaltender. And you want to know why I challenge you? Because Jeremy Skiba deserves to be a 99 overall goaltender. For those who may be unaware and missed that amazing story in the world of the FPHL, Jeremy Skiba, the play-by-play broadcaster for the Port Huron Prowlers, called the game from the bench as the emergency backup goaltender, which is the greatest thing I've ever seen in the sport of hockey. And I could be biased because of how envious I am as a colleague of Jeremy. He's a great guy, great broadcaster. But I'm so incredibly envious. So he deserves to be the backup goaltender for Port Huron. Make that happen, guys. James Jackson, Graham Tuck, I'm calling you out. Make 99 overall Jeremy Skiba a thing. He doesn't have to play. He'll back up Paulin. But let him have one. Let him have one appearance. Well, mercifully, we're through the second period here in Winston-Salem, and it's become a drumming. Carolina squashing Port Huron like the ant bully. Solak has himself a hat trick. Batida has himself a pair. Is the greatest comeback in hockey history in the works for the third period? Doubtful, but we'll see what happens in the third period. You're watching the under review simulation of the FPHL playoffs. Game 1, Western Division Final. Now I know that the game is just playing games, because at this point now it's saying that Port Huron is outshooting Carolina 18-17. That's a joke. And not even a funny joke either. It's like the joke at the end of Joker. Which is kind of, spoiler alert, what the Thunderbirds are doing to Port Huron right now. You want to hear another joke? Murray, it's 7-1, Carolina, as they start the third period. Young centering pass to Graham, who has his back to the net. Contrato sends it down low for Dalton Jay. Jay out to Federley. One-timer is blocked in front by Michael Bunn. Now carried up the right side. Pargach is run into. It'll be shoveled over to the near side midboards, where it will be picked up in stride by Port Huron. Contrato skates ahead as a man in front. Dalton Jay turned aside by Pavlos. There's a good look there for Port Huron as Contrato leaves it in the high slot. Young is bumped into. Contrato sandwiched, is still able to pass the puck out to the circle. Evading a check was Young. Young with a long slapper that's blocked in front. Young again gets it. Banks it off the wall. Miscommunication with his forward in front. Now Federley with a turnaround shot. Turned aside by Pavlos. Good sustained pressure for the Port Huron Prowlers as there's a flashy glove save by Pavlos. Well, it's just too little too late here for the Port Huron Prowlers as they waited until they were down 6 to finally get some successive shifts of sustained offensive zone pressure. And even with the pressure, Pavlos has been up to the task. Osaka and Nippert in the face-off dot to the left of Pavlos. Moroso to Joe Pace Jr., intercepted by Cangelosi. Stops short, elects not to try to split the defense. Now finds a little bit of a seam over on the left side and wraps it around to Pargach. We'll have a power play coming up for Carolina, as I believe a hook will be assessed to the Port Huron Prowlers. We'll take another look at the replay. Okay. The hooking calls in this game, it may not be an opera, but there is a phantom. Krivolovic over to the far side circle. Batida. Centering pass, Krivolovic shovels it right into the padding of Blake Scott, and he holds. Blake Scott getting his first big test here of his appearance in Game 1 as we flash it back to the terrific performance here from Jan Solak. He got the first goal of the contest less than a minute into the game, and that really set the tone for what has been a dominant outing for Carolina as they are cruising their way to a Game 1 victory. Someone get their tickets for Royal Caribbean, because it has been a cruise. Bunn, Solak, and Panachik. The power play unit out for Carolina, as it will be dumped right into the Carolina bench. Not sure if that hit virtual Andre Nitsch. Interesting choice here from the EA game developers. They elected to give Andre Nitsch a shirt. Very, very interesting choice. I'm sorry, I shouldn't joke about that. It's very serious. I don't condone violence. It's still kind of funny. Salak on the right wing. Over towards the midboards. Panachik crossing over to Klinitsky. Now down low to Bunn. Takes a few steps in. Bunn in front of the net. Saved by Scott. Poked out towards the blue line. Bakhor. Klinitsky. That one will be redirected into the padding of Scott. That's another thing that I really wish we could have had, because the Columbus River Dragons and Carolina Thunderbirds, after the whole debacle that happened in Winston-Salem between those two teams, and I feel like that does need like an official name, like Rumble in the Jungle, Malice at the Palace. We need to come up, collectively we all need to put our heads together and come up with a catchy name for what that was. Not very many things rhyme with Annex is the problem. But alone from the regular season matchups, you also would have had an opening round matchup, potentially, between the 4-seed Columbus and top-seeded Carolina Thunderbirds. That is the kind of entertainment that we all needed in our lives. That would have been the Ali Frazier of the FPHL. That would have been a bloodbath. And we all deserved it, and we should have gotten it. Chalk that up to another thing that this whole ordeal has taken from us. And Moroso takes a few steps in. Of course, while I'm able to opine the loss of hockey in this season, more important things are out there instead of the sport of hockey, and I do sincerely hope that everyone out there is taking the proper precautions, that you're investing in your masks, that you're washing your hands regularly, that you're practicing social distancing. I know you hear it from everyone, and I'm not your parents. But it remains to be seen. I'm not old enough to be anyone's parents, really. But I'm just saying that in general, that, you know, hoping everyone is staying safe, because, you know, life itself and safety, and there's far too many dangers out there in the world right now to, you know, be concerned about the outcome of a hockey game. Things can be put into perspective a bit. So we truly hope that everyone is out there keeping safe. And just know this, that hockey will return. And when it does, it will be glorious, and we can all share in it together. In particular, we're all very excited for the storylines that will carry over for the FPHL, of which there were many in the season. And of course, we still don't know the name of the team in Bloomington right now. That was supposed to be announced right about now during the playoffs, I believe. Actually, they were going to announce that during the regular season game there for Port Huron and Danville. That was going to be at the end of March. And they have yet to announce that team in Bloomington. There were a couple of different options. I know the Bloomington Blitz was one, because I'm always a sucker for alliterations. I'm curious how the voting went for that, because I know that there was a fan vote. I'm curious what people's suggestions would be for the Bloomington FPHL team. As we get a stoppage in play, as Kansas' shot is stopped by Scott. 6:05 to go in regulation time here, as Carolina is coasting to a 7-1 victory here in Game 1. All that's left to do is run out the shot clock. Fate holds at the blue line. Switches places with Vlasov. Now Vlasov whipping the puck around the perimeter of the zone. A one-timer off the stick of Fate is blocked in front. Carried up by Portillo on the right side. Final 5 minutes of regulation time. Loose puck over on the doorstep is knocked over to the corner. Picked up by Vlasov. And wired ahead. Long slapper, that's shouldered aside by Scott. Arnott behind the net, passes it up to Dalton Jay. Now up to Robertson with 3:30 to go. That will say the Bloomington Arena looked very nice. I wasn't able to travel when Danbury played their neutral site game, and Drew Blevins was the broadcaster for that game as they were playing Carolina. And Drew, of course, as he always does, did a terrific job with that game. He and Kelly Curl both on the broadcast crews. We got a stoppage in the crowd here, but it looked like terrific facilities for Bloomington. And I know that they've tried hockey there before, but I think that they could be a very successful FPHL team with the proper marketing behind them. As Matt Robertson will get sent to the penalty box for hooking.
Penalty to number 15, 2 minutes for hooking. Time of the penalty, 17 minutes, 36 seconds.
And we get another stoppage. There's another penalty coming up, and roughing is the call. And it will be Solak visiting the penalty box. So Solak will not have an opportunity to get his 4th of the game, as Young crumpled down to the ground. Crumpled like a used tissue. Nippard and Bunn in the face-off dot. Nippard wins it back to Joe Pace. Long slapper from Young, who has somehow collected himself enough to take the next shift. Martin up the gut of the ice with 90 ticks of the clock separating Carolina from a 1-0 series lead. Centering pass rings it off the iron. And there's just no off switch for this Carolina offense. They're still generating high danger chances even in the final minute of a blowout. Klinitsky over to Martin. Well, game 2 will be in Port Huron virtually tomorrow. Ordinarily in the FPHL, the lower seed gets game 1, and the upper seed gets games 2 and 3 if necessary to save on travel, but no expenses spared here in the under review. They're able to splurge for first-class travel to make sure their virtual players are able to get from place to place in style. Clearing up the right wing with 15 seconds to go. Nippard with a long shot, blocker aside by Pavlos as the virtual crowd gets to its virtual feet here at virtual Winston-Salem Annex. Sokol to Nippard, countdown on, 2 seconds and 1, that will do it. 7-1 is your final score in favor of the Carolina Thunderbirds. Calm waters all the way. And we'll see if Port Huron is able to find an answer. They will have to lick their wounds and get back to it in Game 2. 1 win away from a Commissioner's Cup final berth for the 2nd consecutive season for the Carolina Thunderbirds. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Under Review YouTube channel, and be sure to tune in tomorrow night for Game 2 of the Thunderbirds and Prowlers, and be sure to catch the Eastern Division final between the Elmira Enforcers and Watertown Wolves, albeit it is an illegitimate Eastern Division final since Danbury is not a part of it, but not that I am bitter. Thank you very much for tuning in tonight, everyone, and we'll see you next time.